Starting up the brown beef. What? Quart of a tank just wasted. Starting it up. It's so quiet. Are you excited?
There it goes.
You have a full tank in there?
No. 5 gallons. I have a 22-gallon tank.
Going for a ride.
In the summer of 2017, my father, grandfather, and I stopped by my great-grandmother's house to visit after our yearly trip to Wyoming. During this visit in Maybell, Colorado, my great-grandmother, Charlene, told us to go through her stuff and find anything we might want to take, and she would let us know if we could. At the time, she was 89 years old and figured her time was limited, and to lessen the burden on us after her eventual passing, she had us take some stuff off her hands now rather than later. At some point, she brought up the old Lincoln that she hadn't driven in nearly 20 years. Sitting under covers in her barn, she offered it to my dad and grandfather, who both declined. After all, it was a Lincoln that hadn't been driven or even started in nearly 20 years. There was so many issues it could have, it just wasn't worth taking such a burden. When she offered it to me, though, I said, sure, I'll take it. I never could have imagined that the consequences of those 3 words and 1 contraction could have been so important to my life. Alright, so let's go over a very brief history of this vehicle, or as brief as I can make it. I tend to ramble. As I said, I got the vehicle in September of 2017, and that was because my dad and my grandfather went up and brought it down while I was still in high school. I couldn't get time off from school, so they brought it down for me. And according to them, they got a couple offers on it, but they wouldn't sell. It was my car after all. When we got it down, we found out that it was in really good shape, but it had a couple issues. The first thing, the gas tank was completely rotted out. Similar to Cathy, my other Lincoln that I own now, it would be needing of a replacement. So I headed over to rockauto.com, ordered up a gas tank, and did a little quick old scuff and paint, and after that, I moved on to the fuel filler neck. And then, of course, a fuel pump as well, lines and some filters. Then, it moved on to doing some other small things, such as trying to repair the window motor, which ended in disaster because the window ended up falling inside of the door and shattering into a million pieces. Not great. As you can imagine, 2-door Lincoln windows are not easy to come by. I ended up cutting out a piece of plexiglass and matched the shape of the original window and put some aluminum bands in it to hold its shape, which didn't really work, but it was the thought that counted. And we ended up using that for about 2 years until I was finally able to source one out of a California junkyard and have it shipped to my house in Oregon. That way I could install it and finally have a good working window in the car again that didn't look trashy. Next, it was onto the exhaust system. It was a little quiet. But, you know, as being the hot rod high schooler that I was, I wanted to have a dual exhaust on it, and at the time I was obsessed with side exit exhaust. So, with a set of mufflers that came off of a 2004 GTO that we were using to take the drivetrain and a couple other components out of for my 53 Chevy Coupe that my dad and I were restoring, one night I ended up using the mufflers off of that car, a set of MagnaFlows, and some exhaust tubing I had bought at my local O'Reilly's and some hangers, and created my own true dual exhaust system. This exhaust actually sounded pretty good. But it was incredibly drony on the highway, and eventually I would change it out for a set of professionally bent and installed exhaust. And the exhaust sounds really good now. Nice and quiet, not drony on the highway, but anyway. I did a lot of work over the years on the car, but I did the front suspension, and I ended up taking the rear end apart to try and put a mini spool in it, but it didn't work because I found out this is in fact not a 9-inch, it is a 9 3/8. I may go over that in the future. Either way, eventually I decided that the vinyl roof had to come off because it was rotting out. places below the rear window, and there was other rough spots around the rest of the roof. So I peeled it all off, sanded it down to bare metal, primed it, did some body work to it, and painted it white, all by myself, my first paint project. And that was pretty much the end of the big stuff for it. I just kind of ended up driving it, and overall ended up putting 50,000 miles on the car. When I got it, it had 107,000 miles, and when I pulled the motor out of it for this video, I had about 154, so roughly 47 to 50,000 miles if you trust the odometer. I really did love this car, and it took me on many road trips, between driving a U-Haul trailer up to Oregon from Texas when I first moved up there for college, and then going back down and up again just for fun on a spring break 2 years later, and then going out from Oregon to Wyoming multiple times to go to our yearly hunting camp that I went with my dad, my grandfather, and some other family friends. Eventually I did end up taking it down to Redwoods as well with one of my best friends and my younger brother, whenever we decided I wanted to do something for my last ditch effort of a road trip right before I moved back down to Texas. It was about the time I was graduating from college. And so finally, after all these miles and after all these memories, I decided it was time. I had pushed it off for many years, but it was time. The motor was coming out, and so was the transmission. I wanted to upgrade the motor. Heads, cam, intake, exhaust, all sorts of goodies. And the transmission, well, the C6 has done its job, but I wanted overdrive, and it wasn't going to be a manual, at least not in this Lincoln. So without further ado, let's get into the renovation of my 1972 Lincoln Continental Coupe. You're watching White Letter Tire Productions. Hope you enjoy. Yeah, that thing is ready for a replace.
What's that?
Thinking about going with an all-new distributor anyway. I don't know. $7402 $2909. Sorry. That one's short. Okay. That's
No. Oh.
No.
It's alright. Yeah.
When I was doing the power washing, I happened to look inside the inner fender here, and I could see what looked like dirt. So I pressure washed it, and then it blew out. It blew this hole out. So I didn't think the rust was that bad right there. I just thought it was bubbling pretty good, but nope, there is a genuine hole like that big. It's freaking huge. So one more hole to add to the list of things to repair, but that's okay. She's in pretty good shape still. After all that power washing and painting, she is looking very good here in the shop. So I'll probably be taking all of that over there out. That way I can kind of get in there and clean some of the grease, because a bunch of power steering fluid got dropped down in there and it's all nasty. These lines I've got new of, so we don't need to worry about damaging them. I just need to make sure that I know how long they are. That way I can install the correct amount of line in, because I think this side's trimmed to fit this return, and from the cooler to the return from the cooler to the power steering pump that's right about here, that's a line you have to cut to fit as well. There's no fittings on each end. They're just hose barbs on the power steering and then the cooler. So then the high pressure line, of course, I got here, and you can get that from Rock Auto, so that's pretty easy. But anyway, yeah, this cleaned up real nice. Is it perfect? Nah, but it doesn't bother me any. We're trying to do a driver quality restoration here, so. Now we're going to discover how much rust the car has. As you can see, I've already taken this panel off here that goes along the lower rear quarter. It's rotted out. I mean, it's pretty big. So I know in 2017 when I got the car, it was rotted out right here, and you know what my fix was? Aluminum tape. I don't know why I did this. I really don't. What is that? There's a mouse nest somewhere in there. I don't have a clue what that. It's not wiring. Like, I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. But I mean, that rust is way worse than I remember it being, but I don't think it got any bigger. I think I just forgot how bad the rust is in that spot. But as you can see, there is one strip of original metal right where this corner goes down to this bottom, right where this edge goes down to a corner. That is a miracle, because that will allow me to create a piece of metal that fits that exact shape. That way it looks original, hopefully. So when I do rust repair, which is what I'm intending to do now, is just I'm taking the trim off of the bottom to assess what the rust situation is, and apparently it's pretty damn bad. And here's what it looks like behind the wheel. I knew about this for a while. Anyway, that's gonna need to be fixed. That's gonna be a lot easier though, because it's a pretty flat panel. The other thing we're gonna do is, you can see there's a big dip. I don't know how that got there, because the trim wasn't damaged at all. So how that dent got there, I don't have a clue. Anyway, I'm gonna try and see if I can fix that indentation. It's kind of hard to see, but oh, there you can kind of see it. But anyway, let's go check out what the other side looks like. Shit, that's worse. That's significantly worse. I am baffled. I didn't know this was here. I mean, I see some aluminum tape behind the front here too, so that means there's definitely a rust hole here in the fender, which doesn't surprise me. However, it does surprise me that I don't remember this at all. Like, I don't remember there being rust in this fender, but given the fact that there's an enormous indentation behind this aluminum tape, yeah, it's got rust. I don't know why I thought this car was rust free. The floorboards are fantastic. There's like 2 holes in the floorboards, and that's because I drilled them. Apparently not as good as I thought they were. Rockers and fender bottoms. There we go. Let's see the damage. Ooh, it feels soft. I don't like that, but I did this to myself, because this is my handiwork. 17-year-old me, I'm now 24, was not kind to this car. Oh. Oh. Holy I'd like to know why you didn't say anything. Man. Repairing these from scratch, because I'm not buying new fenders to put on this car, because they won't fit correctly, I guarantee you. That's bad. That's really bad. I mean, that's impressively bad. This side is wrecked. I thought the other side was the bad side. I can already tell this side's bad. Oh, jeez. I don't think I'm updated on my tetanus shots, so maybe I should look into getting that done. Thankfully, there's not a bunch of compound curves going on here. It's literally just, it kind of curves like inward, like round belly. So it's not that bad. Let's go take a closer look at that rear quarter in front of the driver's side rear wheel that I showed briefly. I think we got some things to see there too. All right, let's see how bad this is. I'm gonna assume very. Yeah, that's just sand and stuff packed in there. Oh, that goes for a while. I'm not really worried about screwing this metal up. It's already bad, and I have a reference for how the shape is supposed to go back here. My biggest challenge is going to be, I'm probably going to cut like up here and recreate all this down. For a while now, I've wanted to trim this little bit of lip off here that goes all the way around the wheel well, because really I don't think you need it, even if you've got fender skirts. And if I do need it, then I'll just tack on a piece of metal somewhere along it to hold the skirt out. But otherwise, it just doesn't need to be there. So I'll probably end up cutting that off while I'm here. And I've thought about putting some later baby skirts on it that instead of like coming down to right here, the factory ones, the baby skirts come up to like up here, and they're off of a 77 to 79, I believe. So anyway, I'm rambling. bigger, but we'll trim it down to what fits. So this piece is structure, and as you can see, it's rotted out. I mean, like super rotted. The other side was not nearly this bad. Of course, we got the skin, which goes down to here, and it comes as a kick out that looks like this on the back side here that you can't see at this level, and that is welded to this panel, which makes the same shape. But there's a little hump in it, so it has like extra strength or something, I guess. And then this piece dips into it. Ford's got a weird design for this. Anyway, there's a completely different structural piece right here for the fender. You can see, it moves with it. And that's rotted out here. So my problem is that to remake this piece down to here, I really need to cut this whole bottom strap out. This is kind of the problems you have with cars that you can't get sheet metal for. I can't just order it. Probably for the better, I can't order a patch piece because it probably wouldn't fit. But the point I'm getting at here is I'm obviously, as you can see, I've cut just below here. This metal here is not great, but this stuff's pretty thick. I think it's 16 gauge rather than the 18 that's the sheet metal, because that bends pretty easy, but this stuff is definitely, I think, thicker. So I think I should be all right welding to that if I clean it up and I take it easy on the welder. So I'm just gonna pass across here. I think I'm gonna cut all the way through over here, because you can see down here, if I cut here, I'm not gonna get into a lot of great metal right there. So I think I'm just gonna cut, because it has a little lip like that, that's about that wide in the back there. So if you're having to patch one of these, that's kind of how you're gonna be getting into it all. And fresh from the shop is the motor. I don't have my camera with me right now because I forgot to bring it. But here it is. And I'll have to film everything else in these boxes here. But this is the adapter kit. I'll explain why in a moment. That is my torque converter. Again, there's the old transmission, the C6. That will not be going back in the car. Because this right here, and I'll take some film when I got it out because I'm too lazy to dig it out right now. And there's no point. But that is a Speedway Motors 4R70W. And I got that so that I could have overdrive in my Lincoln with my big block. That way I can get some better mileage on the highway. I love road tripping it. It's a perfect road trip car, and I want to continue doing that. That's part of the reason why I'm getting this rebuilt, so I can have a little bit more power, but also so I can enjoy it more. Other than more about the leaks. It's an ugly looking motor with all that oil on it. This poor thing was just done dirty from the factory, and we're going to do it right now. So I found these. Anybody who knows 429, 460s and has tried to find cast valve covers for them may, I'm not going to brag and say they will, I'm going to say they may know the significance of these valve covers. It took me years to find these. These are real Mickey Thompson 429, 460 valve covers. They are cast aluminum, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to go stamped steel because they almost always leak. Ask me how I know. And I did not want something real common. I didn't want the Holly ones. I didn't want, there were some that said hardened marine that I considered, but this isn't a hardened marine motor and it's not going in a boat. Well, I guess it is going in a boat, but you get the idea. But this is cool. And these are very rare, very hard to get your hands on. These are really nice. The only problem with them is the guy that I bought them from, or maybe someone before him, had drilled some breathers, holes for breathers. Thankfully, they did not drill the actual hole, like carve out a hole for the breathers, and that's because these were used on a display engine that was never ran. That's why. So thankfully, these are display pieces, so they weren't ever run. They didn't have any reason to cut those big holes out in the side. So thank goodness they didn't do that, because like I said, these are very hard to find in good condition or at all, really. So I'm very thankful for that. But anyway, so the motor has been 430 over. It's got some dome top pistons that should bump the compression up just a little bit. Or no, that's right. So they are forged pistons, but they are going to reduce compression by I think 0.1 or 0.2. So unfortunately, that does mean like the 9.5 compression that these heads should give this 72 460 are probably going to go down a little bit, or I miscalculated, and that is down from like the high compression motors. So in which case this will be like 10-1. I don't know. We're going to find out. But it's also got forged rods. The crank was really good. In fact, they didn't even have to turn the crank. They just polished it. That's how nice the internals on this motor were. I'm going to be getting a nicer distributor. There's a company that makes ones that you can actually lock out. I forget the name of them. I'll post it up on screen once I figure it out in editing. But as you can see, it's also got a Canton oil pan for extra capacity. And I got this sweet Ford Performance, I believe it is. Yes, Ford Performance dampener, which is sweet. I forget a lot of the other things. Oh yeah, and then these are the earlier heads. So it's got some C9 VE heads. So these would be 1969, I believe, because I believe in 68 they were C8 VE. I believe those are specific to their years. I think. Anyway, I have an aluminum water pump in here. So we'll be going with that instead of the old cast iron one, which is in a box somewhere around here. Oh, it's probably in that, actually, that bin. That's the old parts that I wanted to keep. I kept the old pan. I have no clue why I did that. I just kind of wanted to keep that. I'm going to be keeping a bunch of the original parts, but I won't be needing that mid plate, or whatever you want to call it, because the adapter kit basically replaces it, if I recall correctly. The adapter kit's really nice. It has instructions. I'll bust those out and film all that. That way I can put it over all this yapping that I'm doing right now. But yeah, so everything's pretty much ready to go back together, except for one thing. So I'm gonna bust the motor open real quick, and I'm gonna do some shots showing you what I mean. So let me get this off real quick. All right, here we go. And I'll have to explain at another point why it's got studs instead of bolts, but it is actually easier. I would recommend this for anybody thinking about building a motor. that's something you should definitely consider doing, because that's actually way better and nicer than having to use bolts. Anyway, so what I want to film here is this. So you see how there's a little gap there. Little gap. Ooh, that's touching. That's a little weird. Whoa, big gap. That's one touching. You see something wrong here? These valve spring retainers were on it when I got the heads, and as you can see, they're not the same across the board. So this one's short, tall. The other thing that's kind of scary is that these are both the same retainers, and yet that one's touching, and this one's touching the rocker arm body, and this one's not. That kind of freaks me out. But anyway, we're gonna do a mild solution to this, which is going to be the correct valve springs for the cam that's in it, because he didn't mention that at all or ask about it. I guess he just kind of assumed that I already rebuilt these heads. These are the correct ones. As you can see, they're completely flat on top. So if you put them next to each other right here, we're gonna have the entire top of the valve stem showing, so we won't have that problem anymore. So even if the valves are like slightly different or some weird crap. So I wanted something unique, and you can buy a brand new Edelbrock intake for $429, $460s all day long, but that's lame. And I don't want a brand new intake like that. I want something that's like a little old school, kind of period correct sort of thing, even though these came out in the 90s. But this is an Offenhauser 360 degree dual port intake. And the cool thing about this is that it has a very interesting design. So as you can see, it's not divided side by side dual plane. No. They have a very interesting idea here of combining a dual plane and single plane intake in the space of a dual plane intake. So these front two go down very far. These are the primaries, and they go to these bottom ports here on every cylinder on both sides, and it's the bottom one, the small one. The secondaries, as you can see, are shallower, because I can stick my fingers down way further there than I can here, and they go to the upper ports, which means in your primaries, you're only using this part of the intake, and then when you open up to your secondaries, AE, wide open throttle, or, trying to burn some rubber, you get both ports of the intake. It takes up the space of a dual plane. It's actually a pretty damn good idea, and I don't even know if it makes power. They probably don't, and frankly, I don't care. I just wanted something that looked old school and unique. Same thing with the valve covers. I didn't want something that said Holly on them. I wanted something that was unique. And I paid dearly for it. Not this, these are actually fairly cheap. But as you can see, it's sandblasted, looks all right. I'm gonna be hitting it with some aluminum paint because the finish is not very good. I mean, that's pretty bad. And I do not want to clear coat this because I don't want anybody seeing this. This is nasty. So this is just gonna get cleaned up around the edges probably. So the motor's gonna need touch up on the paint too. Again, engine guy who I will spare the blushes of, I think he stood the heads up on this end. Or no, I think he painted them and then he stood them up on this end and then the paint just kind of like came off. What? And then the timing cover, he didn't like do any paint prep whatsoever. He just painted right over it. Man, I wish I'd done a better job. I mean, look at this. That whole ass, he's like, yeah, I'll paint the engine for you. And I expected a completely painted engine. And what I did not get was a completely painted engine. It's like 90% painted. And what is painted, only about 75% of that is actually good. Got some more progress here on Charlene motor. So I ordered a high volume standard pressure oil pump to replace factory one. As you can see, I got the pan off. So my engine guy, I asked him, again, I will not name him. I asked him when he told me he wasn't able to use that pickup that I had bought. I said, hey, all right, well, in that case, because that was specifically designed for this pan, this extra capacity pan, I said, is the clearance good? And he said, oh yeah, the clearance is good. So I measured it, and the pan is 10 inches deep, and this goes 8.5 from the same surface I measured from. That's 1.5 inch gap. So I looked it up online because honestly I didn't know. People say about 3/8 to 1/4 inches. Well, 1/4 to 1/2 is absolutely at most what you should have. I also went ahead and picked up some pan studs with nuts to replace the bolts because he used a bunch of the same bolts. So, well, I say that. Some of them are a little different length. Like, look how much longer that one is. Careful who you go with. I had a bad feeling at the start. I should have listened to it. He didn't kill my motor, but he just didn't live up to the expectation. Anyway, so I'm gonna install those, install this, measure again, make sure it's right. So this is the different fuel pump, or not fuel pump, oil pump. It is there, M84BHV-S oil pump, and that is the one you need to use Melling's correct pickup for the Melling pan. I don't remember what the pan number is. I think I had the box. Maybe it's on this end. There we go. Yeah, 15750, 464. I think it's 7 quart capacity, 7 or 8. So it's a little bit better. It's got some better baffling in it than the factory one did. Actually, the factory one didn't have any baffling, which is, dare I say, baffling. Yeah, so it's definitely a better pan. These are purportedly fit. So I did all the measurements. It should fit in the Lincoln, so we'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna get this knocked out and get those studs in, and I'll come back when I'm done. Well, hello again. I finally remembered to bring my recording setup on the tripod, so I won't be filming with my phone. So some interesting things have happened in the time being. So as you can see, the valve covers, my dad was able to take these to work and have them welded up so the holes are gone, thankfully. And then he was able to use a special tool that I guess flush sands the welds, so now you can't even really tell the welds are there. I mean, it's pretty slight. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and sandblast these, and then I'll go ahead and get this shiny finish on the Mickey Thompson parts of it again. But other than that, these are looking fantastic and are pretty much ready to go on the engine, so we don't have to worry about those for a while other than some sandblasting. Intake is blasted and painted, and it looks really good, so I'll just have to chase all the threads inside this thing, and that way there's no chance of anything getting gummed up or damaged, and it can go all right together. It's not perfect, obviously. It's not a brand new casting. It's been sanded on, and the casting honestly is pretty porous, especially back here. I mean, it's got some really bad bits from the cast, but it's not bad. You know, it'll work for who's running. So the big thing we're going to be doing today, we're going to be changing out the valve springs and keepers. The kit I got is a 5767. See that? Maybe there? That's way. Anyway, it says 9736, but these will purportedly work. They're the same diameter as the springs, so hopefully we'll have no problem with that. And to do that whole process, I've also got rope. We're going to shove that in the cylinder. It's an old school trick that I've heard about. In fact, my dad informed me about that. I was just going to use compressed air, but this sounds like it'll be just as useful, if not more. And then off of Amazon, I got this cheapy little rocker attached spring compressor. Said it would fit 7/16 and 3/8. Give me 1 second. This is pretty interesting. You just kind of flip this guy around, take that pin out, whoop, flip it around, and then, because it's on the 3/8 side right now, I need the 7/16. So I'll be right back. Oh, there we go. There we go, look at that. Perfect. What I don't like about this valve spring, guys, it kind of pushes the spring back that way. I feel like this hat thing on it should be, I feel like the fingers on this thing should be flat, not angled like they are. Oh yeah. Look at that. It's a lot better. A lot more room there. I guess Comp accidentally put, these are for I needed 7/16 ones. They must have put 1 3/8 in here. Well, my engine guy decided that he would just go ahead and throw in one that he had sitting around. The correct one is supposed to look like this, with the little oil grooves in it. Much bigger than the other one was. You can see the size difference there. You know, that one's pretty thick, that one's not. So I need contact Comp. Now for the time being, I don't think that will be a huge issue, at least I'm hoping not. But I'm gonna be contacting Comp, see if I can get a replacement one. He should have done that before he delivered me the motor, but again, you know, it's a lot of things he did that I am having to fix, so, you know, why did I pay him? Well, I'm asking myself that every day. Bombs away, I guess. What was it, buddy? Got a home to go to. Probably did way too much. Oh, that's not bad. That's interesting. That's a 7.
So like it's got some tension on it now. Going.
Oh, I love the way this motor looks. It's just so good. I am just thrilled. I cannot wait to get this in the car. You can see here, I made a cut there. That's a line, but the notch is right there. You can see where it used to be. Alright, first things first, you can see where I beat the crap. I made a little X cut, spider, to get a little more gap with that pan right there. Just about get a finger in there. I can get a finger in there. Okay, cool. And on the other side, we have actually a little bit less than a finger. That should be okay though. It's sitting on the mounts right now, so it's got plenty of space, and under here I can get my whole hand up behind that pan there. got here is our transmission starter. Over there in this Summit box is the torque converter, and then I got the adapter kit in this box. So I don't think I've showed the adapter kit yet since I got everything well cleaned off. I'll show it off a little bit since we're gonna have it out in a minute. It is from Speed Gems transmission adapters, and this kit I believe was, I think it was $2 if I remember right. It was pretty expensive, but wait till you see it, because this is about as good as it gets. I mean, this is beautifully made out of billet aluminum. This looks heavy and ridiculous, and yeah, it is a little bit, but you gotta remember this is what it takes to adapt from a C6 to a 4R70W. Here's all the hardware that comes with it. You don't have to do any of it. It's all labeled. Looks like somebody went through a Sharpie and labeled every single bolt bag and what is in it. So that is excellent. There's the plate itself. Yes, and that's a little thicker than I remember it, but that's, I don't know, that's probably 3, almost 4 inches thick. It's beefy. I mean, it's it's good size. You know, built for a true big block Ford. They know what kind of stuff people are going to be running with big block Ford. And then lastly, 2 things in here. Got your what do they call? I don't remember what they call this, a spacer plate or whatever. And then they got the inspection cover here. That adapter kit, by the way, also comes with a Power Torque starter. Sorry, Power Master starter, not a Power Torque. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I believe it's infinitely clockable. Yes, it is. You just loosen these 2 torque screws right here, and you can clock it any way you want. Looks like it's got kind of a powder wrinkle coat on it. And it's a mini starter, which I was considering doing anyway, but the kit converts this to, I believe, a modular starter. So I believe all you need is a modular Ford starter instead of the 460 starter. So that's great, because that's a lot easier to find. It's a lot smaller, and you can pick it up just about any parts store, and it's already a mini starter because there's such a newer design. So that's a very good thing that comes with the kit. It's part of the reason why it costs so much money. So I appreciate that very much. It's rated for 400 pounds, which this transmission is definitely less than. So it's going to be my makeshift transportation device, so I can get it over to the hoist, get it hoisted up and onto the transmission jack, and then we'll go from there. Oh yeah, that doesn't weigh that much. Alright, we got it on our makeshift dolly. Let's get it over to the hoist. Here's the part of the video where all the guys who are working on their own Lincolns are going to want to see. So there's a clip right here, which has probably never been taken off the car before. I didn't like those pliers anyway, they were stupid. Oh, of course, just go from the other side. Alright, there we go. And voila! Oh, this thing's greasy, nasty, ooh. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. Yeah, it's disgusting. That's gonna need to be power washed. What's going on here? What is that? What is that? Just found this in the frame rail. That's like petrified wood. That's, oh dude, it's like rubber. All right, we're back with a empty SD card now. That way I actually can film. And last night I got everything test fit. Everything fits together, thankfully. Unfortunately, I do have to cut into the this bit of bracing on the firewall here. It's hard to see but the body line's right there. And from here back I can cut that beat it in a bit for transmission clearance, and then weld it back up or whatever I need to do. But thankfully, that's there, and it's not just the firewall that's the issue. But what's funny is that if this whole adapter kit wasn't quite as thick as it is, I think the transmission would actually fit fine. So. As you can see here, I trimmed this out there, back up to here, and that's gonna get around the pan. There you go, you can see better. It got around the pan there, but the problem is that it sits right up against, you can see the hole on the right side there. It's just there. On this side, you can see a little bit of it sticking out there, so I have to oblong the holes there, but the bigger issue, get the camera up in here, yeah, there we go, is the mount surface here. So yeah, this is just going to be really interesting to try and get worked out. So I may end up not using that mount. I may make something from scratch to create the correct height, but that's really the big thing here that's keeping me from mounting it like right now, to be honest. So I'm going to work on that. All right, so here's what we got going on. I got a bolt coming through here on each side. That's just to kind of keep it in place because I'm going to put it back on the ground. I cleaned up the cross member a lot with just a wire wheel and then also a sanding pad. There's some areas that I didn't do. It's using the outside holes instead of the inner ones, which I believe is what it used before with the C6. But it's bolted on with those spacer nuts. Get you up in there. There you go. And of course that will be where the mount is when I receive it, and then adapt this to it. Like I said, I think what I'm gonna have to do is cut out this bottom here and then lower it at 3/4 of an inch and then weld it back in with some more metal. And then I got this side same as the other, so. All right, quick little update. I got the firewall or whatever, this brace being in a little bit more, and I think it's gonna be perfect because it moved a decent amount. And then I came over here and I whacked off these 2 rear ears on the transmission for a little bit more clearance. This transmission will be going back in for its final, hopefully test fit of the transmission itself, and next we'll be creating or finishing up on the cross member. You see over there. I got the transmission mount in from Energy Suspension for 1136G is what it is, and that's for black. I'm thinking it's R for red instead of G. The only problem I'm going to run into is those holes on the outside. They don't match, unfortunately. So I will probably either oblong these holes so that they fit, or I'll drill new ones depending on how close they are. All right, so we're back underneath the car. The cross member, I'm gonna call it done. As you see, I welded a little patch in there to clear the that little bit of the transmission right there where it was hitting. I got this all welded up all the way, boxed in. I put a little rod in here. I don't know why, but I just felt like that would help. So maybe it'd help the droop a little bit to keep it from drooping. But either way, it's done. It's all welded up. It's nice and stiff. It's obviously the transmission is loaded on it right now. I mean, it's not going anywhere. So got everything bolted up here. Everything fits good. I was able to get a system for getting it in and out of the car pretty easily actually now. Squat down here so you can get a better view. But there it is, factory crossmember modified to fit a 4R70W. So everything's going to be coming out one last time because there's a couple things I need to do. For example, I need to fix the beading that I enacted on the firewall brace there. That needs to be welded up, cleaned up. I'd like to clean up the transmission tunnel. Obviously I need to sandblast and paint this cross member so that it looks nice, because I'm not going to leave it bare like that. All right, we're back after a couple weeks of not filming anything because I was too lazy to drive 15-20 minutes from one house to the other, neither of which are mine by the way, to go get my camera and camera set up to film. So I'll shoot some B-roll here in a second and show it to you, but I did not film any of the final install of the engine or transmission, but they're both final installed. The crossmember, I sandblasted and painted it so it looks nice. Transmission's in fully, everything's torqued, everything's got thread locker that needs thread locker, and it is good to go. Exhaust manifolds are on, exhaust is hooked back up, starter is in, and it doesn't need any adjustment. I had to clock it a little bit, and I'll show all that again in the footage. Nothing's wired up, nothing's hooked up except for the exhaust. And this weekend is hopefully going to be, I got the differential in. So I'll show you here in a second, but I'm going to be taking apart the differential to test fit it to make damn sure. People online, I've seen at least a dozen sources online saying these 9 3/8 differentials that come in these Lincolns will take a standard 9-inch housing third member, but I want to confirm that for absolutely sure.
You were going down, right? What do you have, D3? No, I have the air hoses around. It's all electrical. Like, I'm buying it.
Oh, uh-oh, it's stuck in there. Oop, hold on. Ah, there we go. Ah. Bucket. Mostly intact. Oh boy. I went with a limited slip clutch type. I believe, if I recall correctly, that is a, it does not say. It is a 31 spline posi though, because my axles in this are 31 spline. Because it's not a 9-inch, it's a 9 3/8. Alright, so here's the T on the Ford 9 3/8. First off, yep, they really do exist. Only offered between 1967 to 1977 in cars and 1967 to 72 in trucks, it's not very common. In fact, documentation about how you could get one in a truck is practically non-existent. On the left, you can see the 9-inch with its narrow vertical ribbing, and on the right, the wider ribbing of the 9 3/8. Yep, that is pretty much the only tell from the outside. The good news is that they are interchangeable, with the larger 9 3/8 center section going into the smaller 9-inch housing, requiring only minor clearancing top and bottom for the larger ring gear. The 9-inch center section, however, goes directly into a 9 3/8 housing without modification, and that's the plan here. Anyway, thanks to burntclutches.com and writer Dylan Kovar for this information. And now, back to Charlene. I'm going to put the lube blocker gasket on, or actually I'm going to scrape the old seal off, the little bit that's left, and then I'm going to clean up the surface a little more with some sandpaper and whatnot, throw the sealer on, the gasket on, and we're going to throw this on just for a test fit because I need to put the axles in to make damn sure that this will work. Because if it don't, I'm going to be very disappointed, and I don't know how I'm going to ship this back. It's going to cost me a fortune in shipping, but I will have to do it because I'll have no use for this 9-inch. It's got 325 gears. I mean, I think I had 325s, right? Because this axle was way easier to get in and out because it didn't have any rust. So that makes it a perfect candidate to test. Moment of truth. Oh. Okay, let's go all the way. Why not? Oh, comes right back out. We're good. It's a little bit harder than it was taking off, but. Alright, once again, I did not realize that the battery in the camera died. Axle 1 is in. As you might have seen, I'll have to look back at the footage, it did take a little bit of hitting on the axle to get this side in, and I'm actually not sure if that was the bearing. That was, something was in the bearing thing. I cleaned it out, and it started going a bit easier, but it could be also just a slight tight fit, but now I can just knock it right out. I got it bolted in entirely. Like, all I'd have to do is knock it back and forth a little bit, and it'll just poof, pop right out, so it's perfect. Turns out it was, in fact, the rust on this side that was on the bearing that was causing it to be such a tight fit and such a pain in the ass to get off, because once I cleaned that off with some Scotch-Brite and WD-40, both the inside, the housing side where the bearing goes, and also the bearing surface itself, it was good. It slid right in, and now I drilled that out to fit where it was deformed from using the all-thread press. I'm gonna patent that, so do not even think about taking that idea. That was genius, and it was my dad's, not mine, so I'd be stealing his idea, I suppose. I got that drilled out, so we're gonna go and put that bolt and nut in, but as of right now, oh, it's so stiff. The tolerances on that differential is so tight. But man, it is, it spins both. I mean, I can see through this hole when I'm back here, turning that side, I can see the light through here. It's turning. Yep, limited slip works, as if there was any doubt. But anyway, both axles are in, bolted in, and they come out easily, which is perfect. So anybody out there who's got one of these Lincolns and has a 9 3/8 differential, which I will show you here. This is a 9 3/8. It looks identical, except probably this notch right here on the housing probably gives it away. It's that extra 3/8 of an inch. I'm sure a regular 9-inch, I didn't check the other one before I put it in, unfortunately, probably doesn't have that little notch. That's just to clear the ring gear size. So if you got one of these 9 3/8, a 9-inch will direct bolt in to this housing, zero modification. That's literally nothing else. Just clean it up, throw a third member. Hell, you don't even have to clean it up. Just throw a third member in it of your liking, with a Detroit True Track, or get a mini spool or whatever, full spool, and boom, you're good to go. Just make sure it's a 31 spline, because these are 31 spline axles, and you're good. All right, before I head out for the weekend, got the water pump installed, all RTV'd up. And if you've got one of these 429, 460s, make sure when you're putting a water pump on to remember to put that in, because if you don't, it's impossible to get on there. So just a heads up, it was another great design by Ford. Anyway, the radiator's also in. I got it clamped down and everything, and also the lower pulley. And I'm starting to put this bracket back on, which doesn't need to be on, but you know, it's something to get done. So I think I'll need to hook up quite a few accessories to be able to get the alternator on and to get the water pump going. So we definitely want all that for our first fire out. We don't need the AC componentry on, and I'll be leaving that off, but like the power steering and the alternator, obviously that needs to be on with the water pump. So
this thing's a heavy thing, man.
instructions said do not do it at tight angles. You might kink it, cut off pressure. other than being what she said. It's probably pretty wide, so I'm going to try and avoid any sharp angles with it. So.
One at AutoZone. I get to Raleigh's, there's 15 people there. And
All we gotta do is put that negativity on there.
Now with everything back together, it was the moment of truth. Time to break in the cam.
Ready?
Got it. So, some of you may notice it and some may not. Depends on how much you've been around motors, but most people recognize a lifter tick, and when all of your lifters are ticking, then it more just sounds like a sewing machine or something like that. And something I noticed that while we were breaking in the cam was that it had been running for almost 5 minutes now, and the lifters still sounded pretty noisy. Here, I'll give you a little listen here at what I feel is probably the loudest you're going to hear it at. Unfortunately, the lifter tick I was hearing was in fact a sound to be concerned with. I just didn't realize how concerned I should have actually been. But it was only once I spotted some smoke coming from the breather on the passenger side valve cover that I called for the motor to be shut off. Signs of something being very wrong would soon escalate. Yeah, it's smoking out of the valve cover.
Oh, it should be.
It should be?
Yeah, it's gonna have oil flowing through it.
Well, I mean, there was like smoke coming out from the breather.
Yeah, no, that's
That's
fine.
normal?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
See if we can get it to light again.
Got her.
Too much advance, so I'll bring it my way. I think, yeah.
More.
Yeah, more.
Needs way more, yeah.
Yeah, probably about right there. I need more battery. Well, why is that battery so dead? Oh, it's maybe not charging properly. Alright, so let's go to full send. Okay?
Yeah.
Boy. Really sucks when we stop this thing.
Yeah.
Here we go. Ready? Understand that. Why is that battery so bad? Contact. Why is it not spinning over?
Now, if you somehow didn't hear the other two squeak, screech, metal on metal noises before when cranking, you damn sure heard it just then. This is what we in the business like to call really bad, because that means the engine is, in all likelihood, seizing up. No, it sounded like something.
Oh, did it?
It did. That was the second time it happened. It just did that.
I didn't hear that. That's a bad noise if you heard that.
Alright, well, you saw the footage. It was starting to turn over hard. There was smoke coming out of the breather. We weren't sure what was going on, but it was tight, too tight. There's no way that high torque starter failed. I went ahead and pulled the valve cover off with my dad and grandfather standing here, and yep, there is no oil in the lifters. There is no oil in the rockers. There's no oil in the push rods or lifters, nothing. I mean, this is all loose. So that means it just ran for almost 5 minutes at 2,000 RPM with no oil in it at the top end, which means there's no oil in the cam, which means it's probably smoked. So unfortunately, this motor needs to come out. Fact of the matter is, this is just something that kind of happens. Does it suck? Yeah, that's a lot of money that just went down the drain. But there's a lot of things we don't know. The block could still be good. Hell, the crank could have no scoring in it. The pistons could be just fine. Rods, everything. Hell, it could just be that the bearings are wiped and that the crankshaft just needs to be sent off and resurfaced, and we get 1010 bearings. That could be all we need. Or I could need a new cam. The block could be annihilated, and all of that is just trash, and this is a junk motor. We don't know. All I know is that the motor needs to come out, and we need to find out what caused it. So, does this suck? Like I said, yeah, it sucks. This is really devastating. But there were things we could have done. I never primed the motor beforehand. I could have put a 8mm on the drive and fired it up and seen that there was no oil pressure, and boom, I would have known before I even had the top end of the motor together that something was wrong. I could have put a mechanical gauge on it and found out there was no oil pressure. There's so many things I could have done here. So this is really, if anybody's fault, it is mine. You know, you get negligent, you get quick, and this is what happens. Prime every motor that you dig into, that you build, every time. Don't get lazy and say, well, you know what, it's gonna have oil pressure, why wouldn't it? That's what I said. And you know what? This motor now has to come out because it's too tight to turn over. Not even a full rotation for it. Now it will turn a little bit, but that's not good enough. It's smoke. And next weekend I will probably go ahead and start getting it apart, see what happened. I'm gonna assume, actually I'm not gonna assume anything. I don't know what's wrong. It has the pickup at the correct height. We have 7 quarts of fluid in it. It's all the way at full in the dipstick. Don't know. Whatever episode I'm on, that's probably gonna be the ending, because this is an ending, all right. You probably didn't enjoy watching that, but if you did, well, you're gonna have to stick around for the next episode to find out what the hell happens, because frankly, I don't know what will. And as much as this sucks, we just gotta move forward, because this ain't gonna kill this car. This car is coming back on the road whether I like, whether it likes it or not, this thing's gonna hit the road. So, appreciate you watching, and hopefully things go better next time on White Letter Tire Productions. Thank you for watching.